Welcome back to the podcast, guys. So this is the Inner Circle podcast, and the whole point of this podcast is to tell you the stories behind the transformations. I like to get clients on to speak about their experiences so that you, as the viewer watching from the outside, take something from it. I always say we post so many transformations, so one of them eventually resonates with you and you realize you can make the change. So today on the podcast is Lauren Newby. So we're going to be speaking to Lauren Newby about all her experiences here at JD Training, what exercise means to her, and also a kind of background in and around nutrition. So Lauren, welcome to the podcast. So Lauren, obviously your journey is slightly different to most people that come into JD Training. You didn't have a lot of weight to lose. You had a strong background with fitness and nutrition, and you exercised a lot. But tell me a little bit, where does that come from? Like, is it something you've done from young? Tell me a little bit about your experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always enjoyed exercise. I think I was always quite sporty, even like at school, and that's kind of carried through really. But I didn't really have any structure to it. I just knew it made me feel good. So that was a big part of it. Yeah. And it helped me keep my fitness levels. But I think what I found kind of over time is having 3 children. Obviously that has an impact on your body, unfortunately, in some ways. But, you know, I've obviously got 3 children, as a result of that. But as part of that, obviously my body changed, and the exercise I had been doing wasn't really having the same effect. So I was probably carrying a bit more weight around my middle, didn't feel as good about myself. And I think the fact I had no structure, so I used to run, I'd go to spin classes, I'd go to clubber-size classes. I knew you were going to laugh at that one. So dance, basically, dance classes in the dark, fortunately, so no one else can see me, but I have a great time. Pilates, yoga, but it was just very unstructured, really.
So going back to what you just said there, and I think this is the important thing that I like to focus in on. If you look at your physique before you started with JD Training, it's fair to say you were in great shape. Like, you are a lot more athletic now. Your body composition's changed a lot, but you were in great shape. But the thing I want to pinpoint is, like, you weren't happy. And this is what I say to clients all the time. It's not whether you fit in a size 10 clothes. It's not about the public's perception. I always say, and you'll hear me say a lot on Instagram, it's about how you look, but it's also about how you feel. So again, it's going back to the fact that probably from the outside looking in, people will be like, why would you need a PT? Yeah. But you didn't feel at your best. But why is that important to you? So is it to do with work? Is it to do with relationships? Is it to do with confidence? Why is that important to you? Because most people, and again, we'll put the transformation up, most people will be looking at your before thinking, I'd be made up with that. And that's the truth. But for you didn't feel comfortable. So why is that important to you? Why would you put a priority on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think to start, the bit about not feeling comfortable in myself is, so I am tall, and so I suppose maybe I felt like I was carrying the weight in a way that no one was pointing out to me I needed to lose weight, but I knew I just didn't feel well, like I didn't feel good in myself, and that has an impact in terms of like your mental health, doesn't it? In terms of feeling like I'm not feeling as good as I think I could feel. Yeah. And that body confidence, it does make a big difference to your mindset. I am a very positive person. And what I find is when I exercise, it makes me feel really good about myself. It really does. That kind of endorphin rush, it just makes a big difference. So I think that was sort of part of it. I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin. No one was kind of pointing out, you need to lose weight.
No one's ever going to point that out to you at that point not. Because, again, going from kind of the public perception or from the outside in, you were in great shape, you were exercising, but for me, it's always comes to, I always say to clients are like, when should I stop doing this? When should I start doing this? And I'm like, it's about you feeling at your best. It's not about what other people say to you. It's not about other people's expectations. It's about you feeling at your best. Yeah. So I think no one's ever going to say that to you, but obviously you didn't feel at your best. Yeah. How would that come out? So if you weren't at your best, what is it? Was it energy levels? Was it confidence? Was it body confidence in work? Where was that coming out as such?
It was body confidence for sure. So I was definitely, sort of probably wearing clothes that kind of masked how I feel, sort of baggier clothes, not feeling as sort of good in myself. My husband's, he's like triathlete, so he's like, he's like a greyhound, He is, he's very tall, very lean. And I think that flows through too. We do have good diet, we've got healthy habits and all of that. But I just didn't really have the education, I don't think, around nutrition that I've certainly got now. And I didn't have the structure to my exercise. So I was doing exercise because it made me feel good. but it wasn't necessarily sort of flowing through to the results that I wanted to see. And then I think the other part of it, I have a very sort of high pressured job.
Yeah.
And what I was finding is that exercise helps me kind of manage that. So that kind of consistency, that positive attitude that I find participating in exercise gives me, it just helps me like bring that balance to my work as well, I think, and that sort of flows. Yeah,
and I think through. Again, that was one of the reasons that I kind of wanted to get you on as a guest, is because it is about how you look and how you feel. And again, for you, it is about how you balance that. Because what I see, and again, with JD training taking off, I see it in so many people who run their own company, is they let their own physical health go, they let their own mental health go, but they will pour everything into either their business. You see it in teachers with regards to their job, nurses with regards to their job, but they don't understand that looking after themselves outside of that, how important that is in how you show up for that. So obviously you've recognised that. And I think going back to something you said at the beginning, I often talk about people's identity, and we just alluded to it before, as like James Clear, the Atomic Habit book, always talks about how the deepest form of a habit is one that makes up your identity. And one of the things that you said right at the beginning was you were good at sport. And I think that straight away gives you that, if you're good at something, it kind of becomes your identity, doesn't it? So Lauren at school is good at sport, and then you take it on, rather than someone who essentially might have to kind of fall back in love with exercise. Someone like Carol, who's had to fall back in love with exercise. You kind of never had that, have you? You've always recognised it makes you feel good, so you've always done it.
Yeah.
So obviously when we first met, obviously we were PTing right from the beginning, so very similar to Carol, who's just been on. You've kind of known me before it all kind of took off online and stuff like that. You've probably seen the development of like myself, the company, everything else. But what made you invest in yourself? So there's a lot of people out there that have high pressure jobs, they earn a lot of money, but they don't invest back into themselves. Why? What made you go, do you know what, I'm going to do that? What was it? Was it someone else's transformation? What made you kind of make that decision?
I mean, I think, I probably would have looked at other people's transformations and thought, well, what if, could I get in the best shape of my life if I actually invested in this, and invested financially, but also the time and the structure and the discipline and everything else that I needed to do. When I started with you, it was a difficult year for me in terms of family health issues that obviously led to, the loss of my dad ultimately. And I think that kind of... what it means is that you almost start to reprioritise things in your life, and you really think about actually what matters. And it meant that I really did put health and well-being first and foremost, and that helped me through a very difficult time as well. Ultimately it's also contributed, I think, towards family members joining me. So it's become a bit of a family affair.
It kind of has, and that's kind of speaks volumes, doesn't it, in Cumbria? I always say, people say like about building a community, they talk about how did your business do so well, etc., etc. And I always say, like, up here, and obviously Dan, who's filming the podcast, he knows he's a local as well, it's quite tribal up here, isn't it? Like, if you do, it is. If you do well with one person, people will get on board. But on the flip side, if you wrong someone up here, you can quite easily be blackballed and pushed to the side, can't you, as well? So I always semi-joke that obviously at the beginning when we were training, like, I used to take my dog Milo up to the studio, and I always say if Milo had pooed and I hadn't picked it up and I'd ended up on Kirby Villagers, that'd have been the end of my business. It really would have. So obviously you took the decision to join. You said you had a lot going on, and I think the one thing to recognise, and for me this is people that have got high pressure jobs, people that do look after themselves. I knew what was going on because I'm local, but it's not something that come out in your feelings. It's not something we'd massively talk about. It's not something we would pick up on your mood. So how is it exercise that you use to kind of balance that mood? Because obviously I've coached thousands of people and loads of people in the local area, and normally with a lot of them, they bring their mood in. Whereas with yourself, obviously you're going through a hard time, but I would never have known that had he not been privy to conversations with family members, and obviously Sam's family know your family, etc., etc. Yeah. So how you manage your kind of emotions as well?
I'd say it's a big part of it. I mean, if I have a sort of down day, which everyone does, don't they? I hate how that makes me feel. I really do. So to me, actually having a very positive, optimistic outlook on life is really important to me. It just makes me just feel better, more able to sort of embrace life's challenges.
Yeah.
And exercise is just part of that, you know, so building that structure in. So obviously, you know, I train with you 3 times a week. And then I like to throw a few more things in along the way, some of which you don't approve of, but, you know, bit of running, bit of club size, bit of Pilates, body balance, you know, all of those. But, you know, so you along the way, you know, 4 years I think it's coming up to of me training with you, and along the way you've certainly kind of challenged some of those, you know, beliefs that I had along the way, but in a positive way. It's definitely kind of made me reevaluate. And I always remember one of the first things you said, it's all about what you value. And I've certainly learned to value exercise and that investment in exercise. Yeah. And I think that has made a big difference to my mindset, my physique, my outlook on life. It's that structure has really helped me, and that, I don't regret that investment in any way. You just need to make sure you carry on training me, Joe.
For me, it's more about with regards you. With a lot of people, I would normally say it's about their value system. It's about what they learn. It's about the resilience and all these kind of things that come with it. And that's probably what I'm more passionate about, if I'm honest. But with you, I wouldn't say that. With you, it was definitely just the physique. So when you came to me, you knew how to balance your mood. You knew about exercise. I remember the big conversation us having about this, the classes and things that you were doing, is I was like, if you've only got 5 hours, you need to prioritise the things that are going to make the difference. And again, for me, it's the fact for you was going from exercise to training. And kind of what I mean by that for the viewers watching is exercise for me is just aimlessly moving your body. Why? Because I enjoy it. I go to club size, I go to yoga, but there's no real structure there. Whereas, obviously, with regards to you didn't have much weight to lose. The main goal was getting the body fat down, but also increasing muscle mass. And it was for you to understand that to do that, we had to prioritise strength training. We had to prioritise hypertrophy training. We had to start thinking about our nutrition, protein, balancing carbohydrates. Again, not at any point would I say that, obviously, you like to socialise, it's part of what you do, but you didn't eat bad food. Do you know what I mean? It was just understanding the importance of, if you start to go from exercise to training, you will change your body composition. Not so much your weight, like most people that join JD training. It was more about changing your body composition. So obviously we went backwards and forwards. You're a strong personality. So we went backwards and forwards about that. At what point did the penny kind of click for you? Was it the visuals? Was it the picture? Was it the kind of how you felt about yourself? Was it getting, obviously you've got a lot stronger, was it getting stronger? Was it empowerment? What point did that kind of penny drop for you that actually strength training needs to make up the bones of my training and everything else can kind of be added on?
I'd say probably the penny dropped quite quickly because I could see the results quite quickly. I mean, we started out initially just doing like 1 PT a week. And then I signed up and I was doing two in-person sessions over a 16-week period. And I went on, I think I did 2 blocks of 16. I'm trying to recall now, because obviously a while ago. By the end of that first 16 weeks, I went on holiday to Spain. I remember that. And the amount of people that complimented me on how different I looked. And it really sort of drove it home to me how my physique had changed as a result of that investment. And it hadn't felt hard, really. You know, it was just, I mean, it obviously created a structure in terms of the training that I was doing, and you certainly hold us to account, it's fair to say. That accountability is a big part of it. Yeah. But I had made dietary changes, but not in a way that I was, like, missing out.
No, there were small, weren't there?
Because there were small changes.
For you, we didn't need to make big changes. You were exercising. You liked exercise. It was part of who you are. You were already known for someone that exercised. So there isn't this big identity shift that most people need. Your food was normally all what people would class as good food. Yeah. It was just a matter of understanding that, okay, we want to change our body composition. We need to focus on protein rather than carbohydrates. We need to get some really basic structure. Let's not double carb. As you know, I'm big on that. Like, it's so easy to lose control when you double carb. So what I mean by that for anybody watching is like rice and pitta, chips and rice. Yeah. Carbohydrates are one of them foods that we all enjoy them. They're very satiating, but also on the flip side, it's quite easy to overeat. So again, simple rules of like not double carbing is an easy way. Focusing on protein, 40 to 60 grams of protein per meal. Don't double carb. Have some veggies. well, that kind of makes up a plate. And that's all you needed. Because you understood, didn't you? Like you say, Cole trains.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've trained for a long time. You understood basic nutrition. You just didn't understand quite how to change the body composition.
Yeah, and it made a difference pretty quick, it's fair to say. So, it hasn't, as you say, it hasn't been a big transformation when I look at other people, but I can tell, and my body confidence it has had a huge shift as a result. So I think, I don't know, if we were to take, what I've been at my head heaviest, obviously, minus the pregnancies kind of thing.
I will put them up. I'll put them up on here anyway. I'll put them up, so I'll put the first ever photo. And people will see, like, with regards to weight, it's not that much, but the body composition, how much muscle mass you've got compared to your body fat levels now compared to then. And obviously with the body scanner, we know that because you've been on there, you understand that you're really lean now. And that's the physique that you want, and that's the physique you enjoy. And I think, again, that's what it's about going back to, is it's so easy for people to sit there and be like, well, it's okay for you.
Yeah.
But people don't realise that you've got to work at that to feel at your best. Yeah. And that is, again, where we'll kind of come to next, is like, we did bump heads on, didn't we? Like, I think before working with me, you thought you was genetically gifted and other people weren't, let's say. And it was kind of me saying to you, like, no, you've enjoyed sport from a young age. You partake in sport every single week. You exercise. Yes, you socialise, and people watching from the outside in, when they're watching you socialise, might be like, how come she eats like that and don't gain weight? But they don't understand that 9 times out of 10, you're managing your portion sizes, you're managing your food, you're exercising, your daily activity was always high, like the steps, it was always high. I know obviously we put a bit of pressure on you with you wanting to get abs and increasing that, but actually as a whole, looking at it from the outside in as a member of the public, it was already high, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So again, talk to me about that, because obviously you kind of, we bumped heads quite a lot at the beginning about why people look a certain way. What was your thoughts, obviously, before JD training, like on... Did you think that you were different because you were genetics, or what was that look like?
Yeah, I think, you're testing me now. But yeah, I think that's fair to say that I did have those assumptions that I thought, I always thought I follow after my dad. I guess ultimately what I really realised is that propensity to lose weight, once you introduced the structure, calorie deficit, everyone's got that ability.
It was a science.
Yeah. And we're from a family, we've always enjoyed our food.
Well,
you always cleared your plates.
Again, I think up here, going back to what we
Yeah.
said again, obviously your family, Sam's family are from the same area. Obviously there's a strong farming background up here, isn't there? And I think up here, that is something that I will say is people, I don't find that people tend to eat calorie dense food up here, so they're not kind of, it's very different to working in a city where you might get people that have takeaways, you might get people that have chocolate, you might get people that have all these foods that are calorie dense. You don't really get that as much up here, but you get people that are just big eaters. Like they like the food, they have good food, like good protein source, good carbohydrate sources, veg, but they're having big portions for, let's say.
Don't like to waste.
Yeah,
you've got to finish your plate.
Exactly. And for some people, if they're not exercising, and again, that can be the presentation that I did recently, and the definition of kind of trauma is something that happens that then changes your baseline behaviour. Yeah. People throw trauma around now as if it's like something out of a cereal box and it's something we've just made up. But the actual definition is something that happens within your life that changes your baseline behaviour. So a lot of the people that have struggled with the weight, maybe because they're not as active, when you actually get to the kind of cusp of what's going on, it is that kind of behaviour and that kind of stuff as childhood where you have to clear your plate. Yeah. And it can be as simple as that. And people might say, well, that's not trauma, that's just people of our age doing X, Y, and Z. But actually, if you look at the definition, it's something that changes the way that you behave. Yeah. And that is definitely something that changes the way you behave. But I remember having conversations, not about family members or anything like that, just about people in general. Yeah. And I don't think you understood at the time that you had really good habits, really elite habits, really. And because there's Cole, all the kids are active.
Yeah.
And I remember trying to get across to you without being too rude, because again, I can be a bit to the point that other people and other families, let's say, or people you work with or people in general, it comes down to habits. Yeah. So if they're not exercising, the partner's probably not going to exercise, the kids are not probably going to exercise. If they're eating calorie dense foods or they're eating too much, the kids are probably, and kind of getting that through at the beginning was quite hard, because I think you really did think that people were just genetically disposed to what they were, whereas I have obviously had 18, 20 years of experience of changing that and changing people. And it all starts with, again, you just said at the beginning, if you think back, you liked exercise, you were good at exercise. And for me, that's kind of the cusp of like where we build that identity. That's our paradigm shift. For people that aren't good at exercise or aren't good at sport, they think, well, I'm not the kind of person that exercises. And that's actually not true. And I've seen that in various people who've never been good at sport, but they get into the gym, they get into training, and they fall in love with the process. Yeah. But it's, again, them early moments where people kind of make that assumption, I'm not that kind of person that does X. Yeah. I'm not that kind of person that kind of does Y. Yeah. So talk a little bit about, because I won't go into too much detail because obviously it's personal, but I can definitely notice now, I've known you for 4 years, when you're not at your best or you've got a lot going on with work. I'll often message you. I'll give you a bit of grief in the studio, but I'll often message you away from the studio and say, is everything all right? What do them days look like? Just so people can get an idea of, obviously, you've got a very stressful job and you manage that. You manage kids. We often joke about it, that you're not the only one with kids.
You're 4, I've got 3.
Yeah, exactly. But how do you manage that? And then what does the down days look like? When you're not at your best, what do you think you miss? What are you lacking? And how does that feel? And then on the flip side, when you are balancing it really well with regards to kids, obviously you're going away today, going to watch a concert. What does that look like? Talk to me a little bit about nutrition, mindset, mood, training. What does it look like when things aren't going your way? Because I often speak to people about, it's understanding how to spot that. So I always say, like, so for me, I know straight away when things are slipping when I start going to the gym really late at night. Because again, I'm craving my own space. I'm craving silence. I'm trying to get away from like the family and get my own space and get my head together. So that's a very physical thing that I see. What does it look like when things aren't going your way, and how does that feel?
Yeah. I try to avoid those situations as much as I can.
To be fair, it's not very often. And I always say, and you'll know I say it obviously in front of your brother, because your brother's in our group as well. I often say, I'll give Lauren a dues. There's you and Rob Cooper that are generally up when I'm still working. You're getting up and weighing in, and it's pretty early. And obviously, with regards to the app, I see your sleep schedule, I see everything. And you do work a lot of hours. So what does it look like? What is it that starts slipping? Is it nutrition? Is it training? What does it look like?
It's just having enough hours in the day, but that feeling of just feeling really down. And I know if I go and train, and whether that's coming to a group training session, obviously that camaraderie and rapport and everything in the group. You have to find us the best group.
I can't say that.
There we go.
Yeah, we've got the group there. Obviously it's changed a little bit since then.
But there's a few of us still there.
Yeah, that's at the Farmers Strong, so that's at one of the events. There's a few people left and a few people interchanged in. You
always come out of that, and you come out of those sessions and you're so glad you've been, because in that 1 hour session you can go in feeling down, and I'm always quite surprised at how you can identify when I am feeling down, because generally I sort of do try to be quite optimistic and positive in everything, but sometimes I do, and I just feel blue. I feel like a lead feeling in my stomach, and I suppose in terms of how it flows through, I just keep myself very busy, but then that's always not great because I'm not prioritising sleep, I'm not prioritising exercise. I might be just making some poor choices in terms of, actually I'll have a bit of sugar because that might help, but then it doesn't really ultimately, because then you feel a bit rubbish for having had it.
Off, especially for someone yourself who don't eat a lot of it.
So that consistency, to me, how do I help manage that, is absolutely having the structure. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday I'm in PT. I'll go for a run once or twice a week. I'll try and go to a couple of classes. So I do work out probably about 7 times a week. Sometimes a couple of hours.
You do work
and
out.
that massively helps. But inevitably we all have some down days.
Yeah, of course.
It's just learning, isn't it?
Yeah, myself included. But what's the first thing to drop for you? Is it sleep? Is it nutrition? Do you start making poor nutritional choices? It's not exercise, I wouldn't say. Is it your steps?
Probably, steps, yes. Because I've got quite a sedentary job, so I spend a lot of time sitting at my laptop. Yeah. And so it's definitely my steps, and that's not good on your body either. It creates a whole new set of issues, really, aches and pains.
Aches, pains, digestions.
Yeah. So having a 10,000 step target is good for me, even if I don't always meet it. Yeah. But that definitely helps, without a doubt. So, I think the best thing for me is just to try and control it. I know what the risk factors are, what might lead me to feeling that way, and I just ultimately try to manage everything else. So I don't get in that situation, because the days I do feel like that, I feel rubbish.
Yeah.
And I don't want to feel rubbish.
No, and again,
So,
we often talk about that, don't we?
Yeah.
How I say all the time, like, I went this morning, so I was meant to squat 165 for one this morning. I only squatted 150 for one, and although it is very frustrating, I understand that obviously kids, lack of sleep, business, everything being really busy, does play an impact. And we're not full-time athletes, and that's something I often say to people. You're not a full-time athlete. You're training, you sleep. It isn't going to be periodized so that you peak at your best all the time. But the big thing for me is I go, because I understand that if I don't go, I'm a different person. So that's what it looks like kind of when things are slipping. What does it look like and feel like when you're at your best? What does that look like from a day-to-day perspective? Steps, movement, food. Obviously you do gusto, don't you, as well? So again, what does that look like from that perspective? And then what's the difference between how you feel?
Yeah, it's definitely a structure. Like I always try to start the week off with the right approach, and I think obviously training on a Monday helps with that. So we're start of the week, starting your week off right, and I eat a lot of the same food, to be fair, but it's food I like, protein, yogurt, fuel for breakfast, poached eggs, salmon, slice of toast for my lunch. I'm very predictable, like a grenade bar, and that helps.
Yeah, and I think everyone is, isn't it? And if you look at anyone that, again, and everyone's very different, but if you look at anyone that's like a high performer, they do the same things, don't they? Because they understand, and they kind of build that correlation in the brain of, if I do X, Y, and Z, I will feel like this. And I need and want to feel like this, so I need to do X, Y, and Z. And that's the same with me. Like, I wear black. People always say, I've never seen you outside of black. Like, it's a big deal when I wear anything that's not black. But I wear black. I have caffeine at X amount of times a day. I have food at this time. I do everything the same. I train the same. And my theory is exactly the same. But what's the difference in feeling then? Yeah. How does it make you better? Does it make you a better parent? Does it make you better at work? What's the difference?
It definitely makes me feel better in myself. And you mentioned about digestion as well. I find that those types of food do help. I am prone, I get acid reflux, so that's an issue for me, and I certainly find that like food is a trigger, clearly, for that. There's some things that I probably should be avoiding, like coffee, that I don't, but I love coffee too much. So, Same. So Monday, I would say Monday to Thursday, I'm pretty good. I'm good with my training. I'm good with my nutrition. As you said, I'm quite sociable. Yeah. So weekends, I'm probably not as good in that regard. And I enjoy socialising, so that does make me feel good. Yeah. Probably what doesn't make me feel good is if I do overindulge in terms of food, because it just doesn't sit as well. I feel sluggish, don't feel at my best. But you mentioned about positive role model for kids, and that is absolutely something that's really that is really important. Although my kids are now they're all teenage boys, so they're just
now,
exactly.
We won't joke about that on camera. We've got one away now, which is obviously massive, innit? Because obviously he's now away. He's going to be cooking for himself. Yeah. He's going to be left to his own devices with regards managing his time and his exercise. And obviously he trains at the same gym I'm at. Again, shout out to Transformation Unit. I send everyone down there. But he trains at Transformation Unit before he went away. And it's fair to say he's gone away and kind of he's just kept a routine going, hasn't he, with his cooking. And I think people don't recognise, and people always say to me, like, because obviously I made a big shift with regards religion, with regards like my behaviour. Obviously I don't drink, and people always say, like, what is the driving factor for that? And mine is quite simply, it's not for other people, it's not even for me, it's for my kids. It's for the kids seeing me as a positive role model, not emotionally regulating through alcohol, not emotionally regulating through substances, not emotionally regulating through like sitting up and doom scrolling, emotionally regulating through exercise, and kind of teaching them the skills that I want them to have going into life. And that's kind of what you see now. So obviously your boys are all active.
Yeah, they are. And it does show how like that parental kind of role model, because they've just grown up seeing Col exercising. So as I say, he swims, bikes, runs, basically, does a little bit of weights. But not as much as me.
Not that you compare.
No.
Anyone that's watching this from the outside, or anyone that knows Lauren, will know like they're a very competitive family. They're a very competitive family. So yeah, and again, it is a massive thing, isn't it? Like, it's one thing I'm big on. Obviously, Sam goes to the gym. All my kids have kind of grown up in Kirby in that studio, because they've been going there from the beginning since they were born. In the car seat, we'd take them up there. Obviously, they come up sometimes when my kids are off. They'll come up and like join in and sit and watch and stuff like that. So it is massive. And again, it gives them that positive outlet, doesn't it? In a day and age where I think kids are quite easy to lean into sugar, kids are quite leaning into video gaming, all that kind of stuff, the internet, social media, it gives them that outlet of, I always joke that I grew up in a gym. Like all the traits that I needed as a man, as a business owner, as a partner, consistency, reliability, showing up on the days that are hard, I learned from going to the gym. I didn't learn it from sport, really, because sport was something I loved. I never had to kind of force myself to do it. I learned it through the gym, and building muscles really hard. You have to be consistent. So these are traits that I learned in the gym that I then applied to other things like my work, my business, relationships, and that kind of gave me a real good grounding for who I am as a man. So again, that's what you're seeing now, essentially with Cameron, isn't it?
Well, yeah, and all three of them. So they play a lot of sport. Like that's part of the challenge for me, is just getting them all to, basketball training, rugby training, gym, swimming, all of that. So all three of them are really, really active. And also they, don't get me wrong, they love a bit of fast food. They definitely do. But also Cameron, as you say, he's away now. He's cooking for himself. Yeah. He's taken it upon himself to get his own gusto.
Massive.
Yeah, he gets it, and he's home cooking now. He's buying it for two, and he's eating for two, which
he's a big boy though. He wants to put some size on, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He does, and again, that's why he joined down at Transformation. He wants to be playing rugby and stuff like that. He's a big boy, and he does want to put size on. But again, it's just funny, isn't it? How he's doing that, whereas actually, when I first started wanting to put size on, and again, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have YouTube, we didn't have education like we did, but one of my meals used to be 2 Big Macs, a chocolate milkshake from McDonald's with protein in it. Yeah. So again, that used to be my go-to, and it's funny, innit, how he's having 2 Gustos, which is by far the better option, by the way. Probably similar calories, but by far the better option. Yeah. And again, these are the things that he's built from watching you guys. Yeah. So kind of to top it all off, I want to know what would your advice be to someone that's in a similar position to you with regard to your job, having kids, but probably not exercising or don't understand the value of exercise? What would your advice be to them?
I think my advice would be just to open your mind up and give it a go. You may think, I am the physique I am for genetic factors or for whatever reason, but I think actually just when people are saying, why don't you try this class, or why don't you go and consider doing one-to-one or signing up to online or whatever's going to work best for you, give it a go, because I think what you'll find is it's going to really help your mindset. It's going to make you feel good about yourself, but it's also going to have a massive impact in terms of physical health and mental health. Yeah, absolutely. To me, that's my main motivation, is the physical and the mental health. I think people can't underestimate how exercise does make you feel really good, and it'll have a massive impact on different parts of your life. So, and I can observe that with my siblings now coming along.
Yeah, we've got Gemma involved, obviously,
and my
Craig.
brother,
and again,
it's like a different person.
Yeah, and I'll hopefully get him on. And me and Craig will become good friends. He's a very, very good guy, and we have a good laugh. And he's someone who's great to obviously have in the studio. But probably again, two very different problems. You've got Gemma, who obviously is losing weight. You've got Craig, who again was injury prone, if that's what you want to call it. And again, it took him a while, didn't it, to understand that a deadlift isn't bad for you. You're just doing it wrong. And again, he got his head around that with regards to Fit Camp. And then again, unlike you, probably didn't value exercise as high up, probably didn't want to invest in himself. Had a bit of time where he didn't. Obviously, I gave up Fit Camps and because of the online and working with the groups, and it's fair to say that in that time, his mood dropped.
It did,
his physical health dropped. His probably mental health dropped a little bit. Yeah. And now since he's come back, he's a lot more confident. He's deadlifting. He's way stronger. He's lost a lot of body fat and put thing on. And that's just the difference, isn't it? That you valued it, so you got the results. He's gone, well, I don't really want to probably invest in myself. I've got kids. Like, why would I need to invest like in group training when I could have just paid £5 per session? And joined a gym, didn't he? Tried to join the gym again, sent him down to transformation unit. I should be on commission, kid. Again, sent him down to transformation unit, but he just couldn't quite get into it. And again, it's just the difference, isn't it? In like you that values it and you're like, do you know what? I'd probably pay double if I had to get that feeling. And someone that's not had that feeling and wouldn't do that and wouldn't invest because they don't know how good it can make them feel. Yeah. And I think going back to what you just said, there's two things that I often talk about with regards, obviously, with regards I never say to people that it's about how long you live. And I often say to them, like, exercise isn't that precursor that says you will live till you're 70, you will live till you're 80. And I will never say that to people because obviously things happen, don't they? We can't control certain things. Yeah. What we can control is the quality of life. So I always say to people, lifting weights, being in shape is not essentially going to give you a longer life. And that's what I'm not here to tell you that. But what I am here to tell you is if you live longer, your quality of life will be massively different. Like I often say to people, and you'll know because I had the retired class with the people in the local area, getting up off the toilet is squatting. Yeah. Grabbing something out of the cupboard is overhead pressing. Just because, we're not using an Olympic barbell with them and we're having a laugh and we're having a bit of a joke, they're still squatting on and off the box in that retired class. Yeah. They're essentially training so that they don't need home help. Yeah. And that's what, again, I say to people all the time is that, and what you alluded to there was, again, that quality of life, not how long you're going to live, because none of us know that. No. But the quality of life, if you do live into older age, will definitely come if you've looked after yourself. And then again, the kind of second thing about that is, again, what you said, and I say to people all the time is, if you get a new partner and you put all your effort into that partner, your own personal standard and your personal health's going to drop and your work's probably going to drop. If you put everything into work, potentially we're not going to give as much time to our kids. And I've fallen for that over the last couple of years and I've needed to, and I recognise that. And your relationship's going to suffer. But I always say, if you pour into yourself, if you pour into your physical health, you pour into your mental health, your training, you're getting fitter, you're getting stronger, everyone benefits. You're a better partner. Yeah. You're better for yourself, with your friends, with your family. You're better at work, you're more productive because your energy levels are better, you have less sick days. So the big thing I always try to drill into people is exactly them two things. Is number one, it will give you a better quality of life. When you're away on holiday, it blows my mind how many people will invest thousands of pounds, let's say, to go to Dubai, but will go there and feel uncomfortable in themselves for the whole 2 weeks. And as you well know, people might see me as quite rough and ready sometimes, but I'm quite passionate about that. Like I'm not saying I'm a big softie, because I'm definitely not a big softie, but I do care about people that invest in themselves and go away and like don't feel comfortable. And I think everyone has the right to look and feel that at the best. And because I know and I've seen and I've watched so many people change it, from people online who've lost over £100 to people like yourself who've maybe lost £7 but built muscle, and I've watched every single type of person change, I know that they're capable of it. So when I'm talking to people and they're I can see they don't quite believe it. Carol was the perfect person. She didn't believe that she'd even lose weight, never mind go on to be more qualified than most PTs, to be honest, and work full-time in a fitness company. But anyone can do it. Yeah. Anybody can do it. And they're kind of the two kind of take-homes that I say to people is, if you invest in yourself, everyone else benefits. Mm-hmm. And then number two, it's not trying to live for longer, because we can't control that. It's making sure that if you do get to 60, 65, then essentially you're at your peak and you don't have to get someone to come in. And again, without going too deep, that's why I often say it's selfless, not selfish. Yeah. I often say to people, you might think you're doing the right thing staying at home. You might think you might do the right thing by not investing in yourself and maybe investing in savings or pension or your kids. But actually, there's going to get to a point where your physical health's going to drop, your mental health's going to drop, and at that point, other people are going to worry about you. And for me, looking after yourself and making sure that no one has to take responsibility for you, like making sure that your kids, essentially when you're 60, can go out and live the life, they can go travelling, they can move to Australia, because they're not worried about mum and dad, because you can get on and off the toilet. You are fit, you are healthy. And again, that's why I often say, and it's same with regards to partners, I often say about Sam, I want Sam to go to the gym. I don't think it's selfish. I think it's selfless, because the last thing I want to be doing is worrying about Sam's mood. Is she in a good mood? Is she looking after herself? Is she going to fall into like poor mental health because she don't feel good about herself because she's had 4 kids and she feels overweight? I want her to invest in her physical and her mental health, because again, from a selfish point of view, I want to get on with what I'm doing. I don't want to have to worry about her. I can only just about look after myself. So I think that's kind of trying to get people to make that switch, that it's not selfish to invest in yourself. If anything, it's selfless, because you're going to become a better version for all of your loved ones. And I think that's kind of the big take home. So what would you be your final advice to anyone that's kind of, like I said, in your kind of position? What have they got to gain from again, increasing their energy levels. Obviously, we spoke about your job. Talk to me a little bit about what would you advise people in that position. Let's say, we won't go into detail, but people in your office that you can probably see that don't look after themselves as well, and they're working long hours, maybe leaning into junk food. What would you say to them guys?
I think it's just all about, it comes back to what you value. I think once you unpick what it is you really value, and I think obviously health and well-being has to be at the heart of that, how it's going to make you feel, how it's going to help you perform better in your job. And I think just make some small changes to begin with and realise how those small changes can actually make a big difference. So just moving more, getting out walking, thinking a bit more about what you're eating. You know, just that sort of appreciation really around nutrition. And I think that goes a long way, just having that education to understand what's going to work, what's going to create that shift. But then introducing strength, conditioning, cardio into that routine, and I think you just reap the benefits really, both physically and mentally. And it just helps, I think, then in terms of managing everything else in your life better.
Definitely. And I think someone said it to me recently, and it's probably not the right time to say it to me, and someone said, if you could only ever have one car, would you look after it better? And because essentially we've got one body, haven't we? We've got one brain. We should be looking after our mental health, we should be looking after our physical health. And that kind of hit home for me, because anyone that knows me obviously knows I like to run out of petrol
You do?
every
other week?
Every 18 months. And again, it does come from that. Like me personally, I would never underfuel myself. I would always make sure I'm looking after my physical health. I always study, so I'm always looking after my mental health. I understand the importance of that. But again, with regards going back to what you value, I've got 2 nice cars and couldn't care less. And that is why I kind of say to people, like, if you can, I'm not saying that's right, but I'm just saying it is a value system. And if you do look after something and you do value it, you will make changes and you will reap the rewards. And if you don't, then there'll be consequences. Hence, me running out of petrol and getting Sam to come and rescue me. Right, thank you so much. I know you've got to go. I hope you enjoy Ed Sheeran. As always, it's a pleasure to have you and your family in the studio. And again, thank you for investing in JD Training, as always, because, again, it's people like yourself and people locally that invested that essentially allowed me to build up such a platform that then went online and has obviously gone on to change my life and many others. So just a thank you from me.
Thank you.
Thank you.